Welcome back, folks, to Stage 2, week number 2 of the Quake Pro League. It's going to be cha1n versus Effortless up next. And we're going to get the show on the road sharpish, I think, Flea.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be another interesting matchup. Both players, I feel like, have a lot to prove. After Italy, neither of them really performed up to what I'm sure that they were expecting or hoping themselves to be able to do. So it's going to be interesting to see if they've managed to make some changes since the last few weeks and reevaluated their approach into this.
There's a new approach for the Americas, it seems. You know, I feel like in the Stage 1 of Americas, it was, by just how the weeklies were going, it kind of seemed like Sib and Brick were the two that you were kind of eyeing up to be at risk of relegation, just because of how their weeklies constantly really went when they went against other people. That's no disrespect, of course, because Sib has been doing very well in the challenges, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
Making his way back.
He won this weekend, so there's a chance we'll see Sib again. But my point is that it feels that the Americas region in particular is much more evenly split now. Now we have the inclusion of cha1n, who has just been, he really proved himself, I think, in Italy as a player with real talent.
Yeah.
And then Dewey, who has a legacy when it comes to Quake Champions in particular. Absolutely, Quake Champions was kind of like his absolute breakout game that he took super seriously and did very well up until Quake Pro League, where he had sort of come out of retirement and now he's, the hunger is there again.
Yeah.
My point is that the inclusion of cha1n and Dewey means that there are some players that we saw in Stage 1 that were like, okay, well, they kind of need to play for maybe trying to control that mid-level. If they're not quite able to take it to Rafa or to Hang, try and stay in that kind of middle level and avoid relegation, and then use that constant opportunity to try and grow yourself as a player. Now we're in Stage 2, I think that leeway is much smaller, because now there are 2 extra players that absolutely could take it to a bunch of other players in the Americas region. We have got cha1n to have a little bit of a look at, and he is, by all accounts, one of those up-and-coming players. There's a lot of confidence in how he plays, very, very high octane. Special shouts to Marky Music, because I think he actually kind of nailed this guy's theme song quite happily into how the guy approaches. Reminds me of like an Anarchy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Pretty much. And also, just a little bit of a throwback to these players' competitive history. They actually don't have that much experience playing against each other, because in the first stage of the Pro League, I mean, the two of them never really went up against each other, at least during the online stages of the tournament. Meaning that the last time that they went up against each other was way back at QuakeCon, in which cha1n actually won 2-0. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not Effortless can, turn it around and win this one.
Well, we have Effortless to have a look at right now, and he's one of the players that I feel we're looking at quite closely. I think performance is going to matter a great deal in Stage 2. I think similar to kind of like a cha1n, Effortless is in a position where he needs to step it up going into these future weeks for Stage 2 because of the other players that now play in this bracket. That said, we saw with cha1n, speaking of cha1n, there he is in the game. But fundamentally, there's an opportunity to step it up. Effortless has what it takes. He just has to make that step.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of crouch sliding coming out of Effortless in these clips. That is, of course, a type of movement and a type of champion that he's very well known for. But, I mean, I'm running a little bit ahead of ourselves right now, but I don't think he's really picked or has been able to pick many of the crouch sliders for today's matchup. So that's going to be interesting to see how he deals with that handicap, in a way.
Yeah, that's where the question mark lies. If you hear people talk about Effortless, I think crouch sliders are quite a common talking point.
Yeah.
But as we talk about talking points, we have the vetoes coming up real soon. You will notice there is a distinct lack of them.
Yeah.
The slash was straight up removed by cha1n as we went into Blood Covenant, which, granted, it's a great choice. Slash and that map, they work wonderfully well together. It was forcing Effortless to go in for Doomslayer, who is another top tier champion on a map like that. But fundamentally, a movement style that we're oh so familiar with Effortless doesn't exist. So it's going to be very interesting, Flea, to see how we can take to, I suppose, more traditional movement.
Yep. Also fun to see Swordleg once again. We haven't seen her today yet, and she's coming in to play on Veil of Nav, which you might as well describe as her home turf, right? Because it is the map with the asset all around, and she, of course, is immune to all of that extra damage and can move around everywhere very freely. Going up against Ranger, also a solid pick on a map like Veil, because it is one of the most vertical maps in the entire pool, meaning that when you've got that orb at your disposal, you can very quickly and effortlessly make your way all the way to the top from, well, the bottom.
It's a great pick against Sorlag too, because there's one thing Chain's likely to do, it's going to be run the cycle as fast as possible, gathering as much stack as he can, and if he can control the high ground, you know, the second you're forced into using teleporters to navigate, and Sorlag's weighing up there with acid and stack, she has ultimate advantage. The second you take Ranger on board and his movement becomes a bit more unpredictable and he has a few more avenues to go up to where he needs to be, Sorlag has to show respect to that, and it's not going to be kind of like a slam dunk trap. But the Blood Covenant, the Visor versus the Doom, Awoken, BJ versus the Galena. You know, Effortless is going to have the utility, but cha1n's going to have straight up damage.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. BJ, not the champion that has been played all that often in the Quake Pro League so far, but Awoken is definitely one of his better maps, alongside what I would say is Keep. You've got, of course, the dual wield, very useful in many of the situations, like the fights that we've seen in the earlier map, or when we saw Awoken earlier today. The dual LG could have helped so much in many of those situations.
Absolutely. Always just comes into how much of a difference the champions really start to make as the meta of Quake Champions evolves. It proves in the name, right? Quake Champions, come on now. But it creates extra layers, doesn't it? And at this level of play where everyone has a real sort of mathematical mind and everyone here understands the game at the highest level, it's just an extra element that you have to factor in. It's why things like, you know, Slash removed from Blood Covenant, of course, it makes perfect sense, because Effortless really relishes crouch sliding champions. We've seen his Slash do, you know, absolute magical things, and taking it away from a map that really works out, it only makes sense, doesn't it? We have cha1n versus Effortless. We'll see who's going to come off on top here. Stage number 2, week number 2. Let's get started. Yeah,
starting this one off on Effortless's point of view, he's going to make his way over to the railgun off the bat with that heavy armor, taking a nice little bit of rocket damage right there. cha1n's gonna be happy doing that. Doesn't manage to get a hold of the lightning gun though. Effortless putting in the effort to try and deny the LG as long as he can, but I do think that cha1n managed to make away with the weapon in the end. And now Effortless,
you didn't get an unfavorable spawn either, in the sense that if you're against Sorlag, you kind of need that rail. You know, you need to have the sort of range to pepper down. Not going to be as prominent on something like Veil, where hitting those tight angles and having room to escape might be a bit harder, especially thanks to Sorlag's mobility. But cha1n springing the attack almost immediately, but it forced the dire orb away from Effortless. That's going to give cha1n quite a lot of breathing space to be maybe more aggressive than he was otherwise planning to be. He hasn't got to worry about the dire orb anymore. And cha1n's pushing forward. Does manage to score himself the light armor, doesn't have to worry about escaping thanks to that acid. You're going to notice cha1n is going to just fly around this map. He doesn't have to care about the self-damage at all.
Oh yeah, nice use of the acid right there, but Effortless will still manage to sneak in a sneaky rail, doing 90 damage to his opponent. cha1n getting out of there quickly and easily though, but taking another shot, and Effortless really peppering his opponent with that railgun damage, and that's difficult for cha1n to counter. He has 0 armor to his name, gonna finally pick up a small little armor stack right there. Effortless kind of messing up the rocket jump and taking some damage in return. Heavy, next item to spawn, excellent use of the orb right there, and now it's a race for Mega. cha1n will be the one to make it there first.
But thanks to those rails that landed, Effortless is backed up against the corner a little bit. Thankfully for a great entry damage there on the rocket, he's able to scare cha1n away. As you can see, a real minor delay in between Heavy and the Mega combined. Effortless now trying to gauge some of that information, looking for those rail angles. He's heard the teleporter. Trying to give up. Oh, I love that. Actually, I love that weapon choice, just in case cha1n jumped down there. Obviously, he had no way of knowing Effortless was there because he was walking, making no noise. SSG would have been the highest possible damage output.
And we're actually seeing a relatively slow and methodical Veil being played, very unlike what we saw earlier. This might be the first frag, though. Out comes the orb, the rockets, that's a direct and a lot of damage, but cha1n has the better positioning and the faster switch to the lightning gun, so he will take home the first frag. Effortless in a really bad situation. The rail have to be solid, and they are. That shot, that railgun shot, is what saved his life in that situation.
cha1n 1000% would have just steamrolled into him had that not come out. But he is still going to press the advantage all the same. Caught swapping weapons, Effortless! Not only gets the frag, but he gets it at the perfect time so he can stop the bleeding with a nice tasty Mega. Gets a spawn, cha1n, full speed ahead. Uh-oh! Unfortunately, took way too much damage, can't stop it with the small bubbles, and has to concede.
Yeah, he took the rail together with the spit and wasn't able to get out of the room and onto a health bubble on time. Effortless, just a sliver of health to his name, manages to duck and dodge out of the room. cha1n trying to chase him down right now, and he's gonna find him, the LG. This should be a frag for the Canadian player. Yeah, Effortless unable to make his way out of the door, and cha1n looking really solid right now.
It feels like Effortless is hitting some great damage, but it's not, I think, consistent enough, is it? It's those positions where Effortless, he's hitting high damage, but it's kind of like one at a time amongst a bunch of misses. So when he finally hits his mark, it's significant, but I don't think it's enough to make cha1n really worry about it. You're noticing he's kind of keeping Effortless on the end of a leash at this stage. Like, he kind of knows where he is all the way, and he's just allowing Effortless to maneuver around a little bit. But eventually cha1n, he's going to go in, and when he does, Effortless doesn't really have anything to fight it. That said, wonderful fight, perfectly catches that missed rail and punishes it heavily. And there's plenty of time for Effortless to come back here. He's done a great job of juggling those items. Bit of an unfortunate time to go point blank, but it doesn't matter. cha1n, after the teleport there for the orb, struggling to get his bearings and can't quite see where Effortless went.
cha1n had such a solid setup for a moment right there, had all the stack in the world, but Effortless with just one good rocket bouncing cha1n up to that tiny little ledge. And look at that, an onslaught of damage, but kind of a poor weapon choice. He only had 13 bullets left, or cells left for the LG rather, almost killing himself. That might have been a life-saving ranger ability right there, the lower self-damage, but the rails are going to finish the job 4-4. Effortless tying things right back up.
He has that information, he heard the teleport get popped. Has to try and get in and out to fight for the heavy. Both players basically one hit away from death, and a bit of a fumble there from Effortless. So you can see what he was trying to do just to potentially reposition himself there. Even if he used that pillar for cover, it's likely cha1n probably still would have been able to get the kill. That said, he was still railable. Effortless was just looking for that one opportunity to get one last rail out there, because it would have killed cha1n with the stack he had left.
Yeah. And cha1n just knew that his opponent was so low that a few little ticks of spit damage would finish the job, so he just had to spam it across both of the exits. And he knew that Effortless wouldn't be able to just sit around and wait, and then eventually had to find sweet death himself. And right now, cha1n, can he set up again? That's an excellent rail to hit. Effortless is actually going to mess up the rocket jump up to the top level, and this should be an excellent opportunity for cha1n. He should be able to get onto the Mega, but nope, out of nowhere comes the orb, and Effortless will secure himself the major item. cha1n dodging out of the room. Excellent play from Effortless.
I'm concerned about the missed rail, though. That would have been the cherry on top, really. The finish of that sequence. Rocket, that's information for Effortless. He now kind of knows roughly where cha1n is likely to be. Speaking of which, rail angle ready. cha1n falls for a hook, line, and sinker. Effortless playing exceptionally well today. We'll see if he can keep this up. 5-5, 6 minutes. Already done for this map. There's not much of it left to go, is there?
Nope. And you can tell, or you can see how the base of the map has really changed over time, right? Because they started off getting 0 kills for the first few minutes, and then all of a sudden, in like 3 or 4 minutes, we've seen 10 frags just show up out of nowhere. Both players going extremely aggressively, and Effortless and missing the crucial orb, landing a good rail though. Can he find the kill shot? He is going to persevere, he's going to push in. Shotgun once. cha1n actually finding some more armor. This is pretty good from cha1n.
I cannot believe Effortless was not able to secure that frag. It kind of looked half that Effortless wasn't convinced on what weapon he wanted to take the fight with. While he's deciding what weapon to swap to, cha1n's constantly hitting damage here and there. And by the time Effortless was in a position to get something, he just didn't hit the shots. cha1n, that's a miracle if I've ever seen one. He had absolutely no means to survive that.
That's a freebie. Oh, missing the rail shot, and right now cha1n 1 frag in the lead. But Effortless' saving grace right now is that he still has somewhat of a stack advantage, and he's immediately going to try and capitalize off that. Won't follow the orb though, but will push through the teleporter. Both players relatively low. Mega will be going to Effortless though. Heavy, next item up for contest. cha1n, can he make it onto it? Nope.
Railable with the stack he's looking at. cha1n! Almost brave that he went for that jump. He almost half thought Effortless was looking for a rail angle there, and the moment he jumped, he potentially gave it to him, but he did take some damage. Didn't look like a rail was what was equipped at the time. And now, looking to head him off. Fight's breaking out, opening damage unreturned, which is going to give cha1n a bit of breathing space. As long as he maintains the lead here, he's in a position to be the one that's in control.
Yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if we saw the game slow down again right now. There's 2 minutes left. Players know that if the frag difference grows to over 2, it can be really difficult for either player. The Rockets are sublime, and it will be a trade. Effortless saving himself with that final little rail shot. But still, cha1n 1 frag in the lead due to the trade, and this is good for Effortless. Rockets, again, superb, 7-7.
And there's just enough time on the clock to make this interesting. Here's the opening rocket jump cha1n. Damage on top of more damage. He just needs one more good rocket, maybe one more. cha1n is going to drop again, giving Effortless the lead. He's very weak, in and out, before he even has a chance to look at it. Looks like he's springing it almost immediately, though. That damage over time is going to be unfortunate. Does manage to get some damage. Where are the health bubbles? Where's just in time, Flea?
1
just in
point
time.
of health, and he still manages to fight the health orb. And there we go. The LG is solid, and cha1n, goes down just a foot away from the mega health. That's gotta hurt. He still has time. 1 minute left. There's still time on the clock. But cha1n has gotta make something huge happen right now.
He has to waste a little bit of time trying to get some ammo and some weapons, though, so he can take the fight. That rocket jump, surgical from Effortless just to beat him to the punch. cha1n falls again. What a sequence from Effortless this has been. My man is awake right now. How early in the morning is it over there? Oh, another one! Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is absolutely looking dire. Effortless is just maintaining such an incredible degree of control, and cha1n is just kind of slamming his face into the wall over and over again, finally breaking through and getting a frag. But at this point, there's just over 10 seconds left. Does it even matter? Good rail indeed, but I think that at this point, the GGs can be called mathematical impossibility, as Effortless takes map 1.
That was a great start. Just on the back of some wonderful shots. And at the very, very end, just cha1n, I think, trying too hard to force a comeback to happen. You know, rather than waiting for the opportune moment, which I know is scary by the end of a map when you've only got a minute and a half left, or maybe a little bit more than that. And it's like, you're running out of time where you can kind of naturally allow your position to happen, where it's like, okay, well, now I can hit a rail, maybe I can run in and finish it off and stuff like that. And, you know, he's tried to force the advantage in the space of like 20 seconds and just gave up frags constantly at the end, and Effortless was capitalizing wonderfully. He was just playing like on that next level, the final stages, even down to he knew that cha1n was waiting for him near where Rocket was, and he forcefully rocket jumped himself around the corner. Clearly cha1n just got zipped right past, finished the fight, and cha1n, that moment when he was near Mega at the very end and miscalculated its spawn time by like half a second, or maybe he just expected to be able to survive that long, I'm not sure. But it was the beginning of the end. Yeah, gave him a stack and he ran away with it.
And that was also such a strange fight. The rocket putting him perched up on that little ledge right there, and you just have so little room to dodge and move around, and really, that cha1n was just kind of a sitting duck. And there we go. That was that infamous spit kill from earlier.
This was that really funky fight.
Yeah, look at that.
Well, you can look at how cha1n's approaching it, where he's looking for as many angles as he can to just get some rocket damage initially, while at the same time desperately trying not to give his position away too much.
I think a huge factor in the way that particular fight turned out was actually the fact that cha1n was playing Sorlek, because he did not take damage from the acid. He could stand anywhere in that little alcove and just completely be fine, and I think that maybe Effortless just wasn't really prepared for that and wasn't looking where cha1n was positioning himself.
That was a beautiful fight.
Yeah.
Like, by all accounts, I kind of feel like that was actually Effortless's frag of the entire match, where he knows a fight's going to happen, and it's, hey, I'm playing Ranger, I do less damage to myself when I use rocket jumps, so he just used that to just reposition himself is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And cha1n was not ready for that.
Yeah,
not ready at all.
And I mean, I really think that cha1n in the end probably a little bit too aggressive. There were around like a minute and a half left to go, and they were actually tied 8-8, and then all of a sudden cha1n just overextended, gave up a frag, immediately thinks, okay, maybe I can turn it around, get another one to follow up, and it immediately fails, and then you're 2 frags behind with just a minute left on the clock, so it's so difficult to work with.
It's kind of like the big risk, big reward play.
Yeah.
You know, technically, you could play that way all game.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways that you can approach Time Limit Duel, where the clock is a huge factor. You kind of gauge how much time you have to make something happen, and when you start to run out of time, you're kind of almost like naturally forced to be a bit more aggressive if you have no other options. But I feel like that one instance at the end was not the time to go for it.
No.
If it worked, great. If he was able to score a frag off that, he's playing a Sorlag, he's got the movement, he has the natural stack that you can build back up. If that worked at any point by the end, that was his ticket to a comeback. So you can understand why he went for that. It's just hindsight's a wonderful thing, and as commentators with an X-ray, we can see everything. Hindsight is the one gift that we have.
But also, Effortless, his reads on cha1n were actually really good. There were several situations in that match where we really saw Effortless just get a perfect read on his opponent, position himself in just the right place, and then just catch cha1n just completely off guard, coming around the corner.
Out of teleporters and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
We saw that perfect position just near rocket launcher where cha1n had used the teleporter near heavy, and Effortless, it was like he was there 5 seconds ago. He was just waiting, saw it, bam, done.
Yeah, same with LG. Lots of situations where cha1n would round the corner, just take a full face of LG, and that hurts so much, kills your momentum, puts you in such a vulnerable state as well that there's just nothing you can do.
Well, we're going to go for a bit of a switch up now. Blood Covenant is our next map, and again, we always have to think about the champion pool for Effortless, how the one potential opportunity he might have had to go for a crouch slider that really favours him on this map in Slash was removed.
Yeah.
So Slash was banned out of Blood Covenant, so he's going to be left to the Doom Slayer. But he's been looking good today. I fear that maybe cha1n was just too eager at the end of that last map. But at this level of play, right, what do the pros do? If they lose a map, they forget about it. You go into a new map as a new experience. In the format of Quake Pro League, we have to play every single map as is.
Yeah.
There's always the potential to gain points. And in both of these players' positions, actually, especially with the rest of the talent pool in the Americas, they need as many points as they can get.
Oh yeah. And also, Blood Covenant is just a slower map to begin with, right? It's a lot larger, much more open space than what we saw on Veil, so that inherently just makes it a more slow experience. Maybe a little bit more disciplined, but a little bit less aggressive for most players, so maybe that'll help cha1n just contain that aggression a little bit towards the end.
I'm thinking of the possibility of what might be a 2-0 at this stage for Effortless.
Could very well be, yeah.
We were talking about how, granted, both of these players are ones that kind of need to step up.
Yeah.
cha1n hasn't quite been able to maintain that standard either just yet. He's still here in the Quake Pro League, so that definitely counts for something. He didn't have to worry about relegation, as did Effortless.
Yeah.
But stage 2, things are getting quite sweaty, so immediately tries to open up, and that delicious mid-air rocket almost forcing him to miss that rail shot. But the defensive rails, it's shocking that Effortless was able to actually hit those rails to survive. Very impressive indeed. I was almost completely prepared for him to die there.
Oh yeah. The only reason he survived was because of that 125 health bubble near the exit. If that hadn't been around, that absolutely would have been a frag for cha1n. And what we're looking at right now is a very nice delay between the items, and Effortless actually has the better positioning, which he surrenders right now, so cha1n might be able to just drop on this heavy. Nope, it will still be Effortless, and an excellent rail to open up with, decides against going for the hyper-aggressive rocket jump chase.
I think Effortless played around the piercing sight really well there. The second he heard that audio cue, what a shot! What a crazy rocket! My man was ready for that jump pad 3 seconds ago.
Oh yeah.
That flick was just calculated.
I mean, I have to commend Effortless, his patience and discipline right there. Just look in the replay how long he waited to fire that first rocket. He could have shot it instantly, but he waited until he almost hit the floor, just patiently taking the damage, knowing that he had to stack, and then just bounce in the bounce pad, up you go, and dead. That's just how that went.
cha1n has got access to Mega, however, no armor just yet. And he's trying to, I think, stick around on the bottom just in case. But, yeah, I mean, this has just been wonderfully played from Effortless so far. I was going to say he's working around the piercing sight really well. The second he heard that audio cue, like, he backed off immediately, hit that kind of, like, not even peak rail. It was just a rail around the corner to try and give as much of his hitbox up as physically possible. Right? Don't give him a toe to work with.
Yeah.
But looking for more rail shots, unreturned. That is potentially cha1n's opening to go in here and make something happen.
Very good read from cha1n as well, really positioning himself near that railgun, but not in plain sight of his opponent, and expecting Effortless to come around that part of the map, and then just cutting him off and doing a lot of lightning and damage on the way over to Mega, just so that he was able to secure it himself. So that was a very nice play from cha1n, landing the shots as well. Finally, cha1n putting out some damage of his own. This might be what turns it around for him.
Well, cha1n does have the positioning in mind. He knows that Effortless has a lot of health bubbles to retreat to as he's chasing him down. Combine that with the heavy. And Doomslayer is still quite chunky to take that fight. cha1n once more without armor. But a consistent problem, and now panic button sets in. We have to try and escape. We have to think about how we can do it without giving up a rail angle. If Effortless gets a good read here and finds this angle, which he's looking for now, but if he just had the rail out for a second longer, we potentially would have seen a frag there.
I also want to point out, cha1n has just really been using the piercing sight the moment he's got it, more or less. Just he gets it and he uses it. He's really not looking to hang on to it and fight the perfect time, but he just wants to get that information constantly. And look, again, the second he has it up, both players, they know exactly where the other one is. They know exactly what their opponent is doing, and they are just waiting it out to continue. And right now, Effortless is going to push in. We're going to get an LG fight right there. Effortless is just going to turn away. He doesn't have any rockets to contest with. So he's just gonna back up, make his way to Mega.
Doesn't hit it.
Oh, excellent shot.
But unfortunately, I mean, I think he knows the risk going up that jump pad, that conceding it is likely, but he's definitely railable at this health. Looking for that light armor, does manage to find it, thankfully. Has given him a bit of an advantage here on cha1n. Collecting the rocket just to get some of that all-important ammo back too. Going to be important for this next fight, potentially, as we might see one break out near the heavy. And cha1n's going to concede. We're talking about the piercing sight and how cha1n's using almost immediately. Yep. He is going to have the luxury of kind of having all of the hourglasses to himself.
That's true.
Because Doomslayer, there's not really going to be many opportunities to use the Berserk, so they're going to just be free pickups on the map that almost exclusively belonging to Visor, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's also very intimidating to your opponent, right? Because if you are holding on to the piercing sight a lot more, your opponent might start to get a read for when you're using it, right? When things start to slow down, when you're about to take a major item, you might expect the piercing sight to come out at that time. But when your opponent just uses it the moment it becomes available, you have no frame of reference to expect or consider anything about his ability. So that puts a lot of strain on Effortless.
cha1n's not quite been able to stop Effortless from collecting some of these major pickups so far, though. It's been a bit troublesome for him, really. As long as Doom's able to maintain a huge stack, he can use it quite happily thanks to his just kind of position himself wherever he wants to be. Effortless has been hitting some great rails. That's going to be another one. And it's making cha1n having to second guess. Even with that piercing sight available, he's just popped it.
Yep.
So he clearly knew where he was. It's just, he's hitting in that initial rail every single time. And it's like, well, I can't really go all into this fight now, because if it goes pear-shaped, and it might do now, he's missed!
Oh.
The double jump, allowing Effortless, but a good defensive rail. Unreturned both ways so far.
Yeah,
that 5-minute warning.
It really seemed like he had an opportunity right there after doing the opening damage, rocket jumping, but then he misses the rail, and not even just that, but cha1n lands one of his own, and so that's back to the drawing board for Effortless. Can't immediately contest, and here we go again. Both players fully aware of each other's position. Not gonna stick around as long as they did last time, though, and this time Heavy will be going to cha1n. This is looking good for the Canadian player. The double back! Oh, Effortless. A little bit of a dangerous situation to be in.
Definitely Effortless feeling like he was just free to jump down and get that damage, maybe not expecting cha1n to double back and get that initial damage himself. Has it made much of a difference though? Not quite. Effortless has the biggest stack. That said, cha1n has been hitting some rails. There's no light down there. You know, we did just hear piercing sight get activated. Likely that cha1n collected it as he retreated, but too much for risk.
Yep.
Too much for risk. He sees the tri-bolt. cha1n can see his own stack. Don't even try it.
This has been a very interesting game in the sense that both players are... No one's really establishing solid control, right? As one player takes one item, sometimes one player will take both, but they're both just putting out enormous amounts of damage so that no one can really stay in control or fully cement his better positioning on the map.
Effortless just perfectly slid his way out there, though. A lot of potential angles to get caught in the wrong place.
Oh, wow.
Great rail. Plenty of ammo left to land a few more. That is going to be the heavy collected by cha1n. Effortless should have some mental timing in his head thanks to that.
Effortless, pick up a health bubble, please. You've been running around on 80 points of health for so long. He's just gonna get to Mega instead. That'll work too, I say. Heavy up in around 10 seconds, and Effortless has got the better positioning. And keep in mind, Effortless is one frag in the lead. He really doesn't have to force anything, doesn't have to overextend. He can finish 1-0 and win.
He's looking to finish it now. Does need a lot of health to go. A big risk to chase that down at this stage once more. It's just about, if you can get a frag, wonderful. But if cha1n is that far behind, if you can keep him that far behind and hit rails as you go now, then cha1n's never able to take a fight. Best case scenario, you can score a frag. I mean, average case scenario, he's constantly having to run around and restack back up, which means he's not fighting you.
Yeah. And that's really every single time when Effortless hits a rail, it hurts cha1n so much because that loses him quite a bit of time. Less to go back, collect resources, can't pressure, will lose out on more major items. But here we go!
Oh my god!
Big fight coming up. cha1n will take heavy, but doesn't have the health to really stand up against the onslaught that Effortless LG is bringing.
Feels like we have to give a real special shout-outs to Effortless's rockets today.
Yeah.
That initial rocket where he knows cha1n's likely to be full speed ahead. What's his mobility going to be? Alright, let's just position the rocket accordingly. cha1n shouldn't have a rail right now because he spawned down south. So Effortless doesn't have to worry too much about giving up an angle yet. Might have to be a bit fearful of his own stack up until now. Where now he's finally free. Piercing Sight's just about to become available. What's cha1n going to do with it? Does he pull the trigger? Likely he might be using it now just to try and get some of that information. Knows he's really far away from Mega if he's chose to use it. But right now he's staying safe. There it is. Popped.
It's very unfortunate for cha1n that Effortless managed to do that kind of damage in a lost situation. Oh, he sets up a very nice trap, rather, lands a good rail. LG versus LG. cha1n kind of knows that he has to make something happen now. There's a little over a minute left, and that will do it. Good rocket. Effortless caught out of position, and cha1n will finish him off heavy, waiting behind him.
Thanks to the one frag he was able to build up beforehand, though that's not going to tie things up. And seeing as Effortless has just been a real nightmare to chase down so far, even with cha1n having this constant access of information every kind of 30 seconds or so, thanks to the amount of hourglasses that constantly exist. Like, look at how much it shaves off cooldown time. That went from 42 to 26, just like that. He's had non-stop information this entire map, yet Effortless has been the one that, it feels like he's the one that has all the information. And he's not the one that has piercing sight.
Oh, Effortless actually fumbling the movement right there. Is he going to pursue with the burst circus? He's going to run in circles and he will find him on the comeback. Ouch.
Uh-oh.
That's gotta hurt.
I feel like that's delivered the death sentence right there. Effortless has played sublime today, and cha1n, you mentioned that these players haven't really collided that much at all since QuakeCon.
Yeah.
And there's always the element that now they're playing again in a competitive setting after so long. Looks to me like cha1n just hasn't been able to find that rhythm. He hasn't been able to really find the flow of Effortless the entire time, and Effortless is the one springing all the traps, he's making all the plays. He was the one that was in control, and he's going to take another map. Looking fantastic today.
One moment that I want to highlight near the end of this series was really... Basically, there was one point where cha1n manages to make a frag. He's gonna start his comeback. He's 1 point behind and he's over at heavy. And he immediately goes very aggressively and tries to chase down his opponent, expecting a spawn over at Mega. And so he leaves the heavy up that's sitting there right behind him. And as he goes around that way, or Effortless rather, loops around that way and just collects the heavy armor and is like, hey, now I'm more stacked than you are. And I think that was perhaps a bit too ambitious from cha1n to try and find him. Yeah, look at that one. First frag as well.
It just makes me feel a certain way. And that moment could have been a pretty easy pickup. Another excellent rocket. And this is quite a testament to how Effortless has played today. cha1n has looked very uncomfortable, I think, and with just how that went down. Thankfully, the rocket was equipable there, so he had the chance to loop around. But, I mean, cha1n's been making quite a few mistakes, it feels. But it's a combination of cha1n making quite a few mistakes throughout the course of the series, and Effortless making almost none.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good day for Effortless, not so much of a hot day for cha1n, unfortunately.
Yeah, no matter how this final map turns out, it's already clear-cut. Effortless will be the one to take home the win in this series. But of course, knowing how important the points are and that extra bonus you get for winning 3-0 over your opponent, both players are really still going to be in it to win the final map, rather, right? Effortless wants to get that boost going 3-0, and cha1n, of course, wants to deny his opponent those extra points.
A 3-0 point boost in Stage 2 as well. Now the fact that you kind of awarded more points than you were in Stage 1 matters a great deal.
Absolutely.
Like, you're in a position now where if you can secure early 3-0s, and now we're in round robin format too, where it's not about, in the Americas, getting a 3-0 would maybe mean, okay, I get a fight Rafa next week, let's go. But now we're in a round robin format and the points work the way they do. I mean, it's just only ever going to be a good thing for you. and not something you have to worry about. You're just going to be feeling good about it.
Yeah, and on that note, I just heard that we're going to be able to take a look at some of the map stats for this final map that we just saw, so that's going to be interesting. Look at the item control. 5, 11, 13 to 12, Effortless. Definitely more on his game when it comes to the items, and both players pretty decent accuracy, 41% for the railgun, 38% of the lightning gun. But Effortless ultimately in the end doing far more damage than his opponent.
I just feel like looking at those stats, the story that was told was that Effortless had the position most of the time thanks to his control of the items, and the rails were just a thorn in cha1n's side. And most of his damage came from the LG, and it was mostly when the fights would break out, but he was not the one that started those fights. It would come down from Effortless being in a good position to make it happen. And how many times did we see cha1n try and fight for one of those items, and he died for it? It was just, or taking so much damage, he's forced to retreat and disengage. And then Effortless has both the control of the items that he picked up, and now he's got cha1n on the back foot. And the piercing sight was almost being used not to set up situations where he can score a frag or get an item. The piercing sight was being used just so cha1n's like, okay, am I safe now? You know, just to see if he's all right, if he has room to potentially not die finally. But we're going into our next map now, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to go into the third and final map of this series. Going to be very interesting to see. Are we going to get a 3-0 or just a 2-1? It matters oh so much when it comes down to the points.
It's going to be a big deal for Effortless.
Yeah.
It's an early injection to end the day and feel like, right, I did exceptionally well. If you're trying to avoid always, forever, the relegation period, Effortless, he wasn't one of those relegated players, but he was nearly there in Stage 1. He was just a few points short, really. But now here we are. Let's quickly smack that enter button.
Yep.
There it is.
I see Effortless announcing he's got a few new totems in chat. Does that mean he's got some new strategies up his sleeve that his opponent might not be aware
I
of?
think you should tell him about that, though. Or maybe that's a mind game and there are no new totems, and cha1n's going to be looking elsewhere, and he's just wasting time.
This is psychological warfare at its finest in Quake. But just in case you might have missed it, one frag in 30 seconds. cha1n immediately taking the lead, but oh no, doesn't really have the ammo. Ouch! Effortless, as you mentioned earlier, the rockets, this man is on point. That definitely isn't a new totem right there, though, at the end of the teleporter. LG versus LG. Effortless will have to retreat.
Oh, he's waiting for it. Is cha1n going to give it to him? Is cha1n... Nah.
7 points of health. So risky. And that little wait actually allowed cha1n to just loop around and get so many resources back, putting himself in solid control of the map once again. Nice rocket, though. That's 100 damage.
I said earlier, special shouts to Effortless and his rockets, and he is continuing to deliver this level of just sheer excellence. Looking for a rail, hits its mark, cha1n running right into that one.
Yeah, perfect read from Effortless, knowing exactly where his opponent is going to be, and cha1n just giving it to him on a platter. Nice. An easy rail. The dual wield is gonna come out. Dual rockets, not something you see all that often. Effortless down to 17 points of health, but the super shotgun clutches it out.
cha1n really being eager that he had what it took to make that fight. He was just, although he was peppering out lots of rockets, he wasn't hitting crazy high levels of damage. It was just thanks to the dual wield letting it happen. But he cannot survive. LG is going to melt him away. Effortless secures another frag, and I just fearfully that this just hasn't been cha1n's day at all, has it?
No, cha1n, what he has to do right now is slow things down. He cannot keep playing this super aggressive game and putting himself in the middle of the map with no escape routes and no way out. And again, he will go down trying to make his way onto the railgun with nothing but rockets to work with. Effortless is going to slaughter you when you do that, and every single time he gets the frag, he just keeps on extending his lead. Patient play there, though. Effortless isn't going to chase through the teleporter, even though he very well could have, but he's just going to position himself already with Mega to his back, even though there's still quite a bit of time left.
Needs to get himself some armor. That's the worrisome point. Still railable at this health, no longer thanks to the light, but the danger is, but he's just been walking into traps so regularly. Effortless, he's just been sitting there and listening out for all the information he can take. Opening damage on cha1n, and again! Although he's firing the rockets, Effortless is constantly in such an awkward position, I think, that those rockets miss quite consistently. You know, those rockets just don't hit their mark, and because there's almost like no terrain nearby, cha1n's being forced to try and go for directs as his only source of getting damage, and that's quite a tall order.
Yeah. I want to see a player hit that nail can jump today.
Oh my god, please!
The rocket's ridiculous once again. Effortless lower than his opponent though after that extra health injection, but it doesn't even matter. Effortless says, oh, you got Mega? Okay, well, here's an extra rocket for your troubles.
Alright, that's a turnaround.
Yeah.
That's cha1n. That one is understandable aggression, where he has the tools. Yes, he's taking some damage, whatever. The stack is going to undo. Oh! Finish the job! cha1n looking to get the final shot. But as long as he misses these rails, it's not so guaranteed. And cha1n at risk of letting this frag slip through his fingers, missing shot after shot. Doesn't miss that one, but still, one defensive rocket with no armor.
There we go.
Yeah, had to chase that one down. Don't let that one escape.
Bit of a questionable weapon choice for all that time, though. After you miss that first rail, especially after you missed the second one, there comes a time where you just have to be like, you know what, I'm going to push in machine gun, lightning gun, anything but rail. Okay, not bad, not bad. A little bit of a midi and off the spawn right away. Effortless going down once again. cha1n still has the will to fight in him.
It almost looks like what's happening here is what cha1n's doing right now. He spent 4 minutes and 25 seconds trying to do, only now it's working. But he has BJ, he has the champion for it. So he knows he can catch Effortless off rhythm. When there's no totems on the map and there's nothing established, then you know, Galena has very limited ways to keep herself alive. That rocket's going to be good information, but that's a painful rail to get hit by. You can see he's looking for the angle. Barely gives it up to him. And Effortless got another shot, but he hits the second one. 7-5.
I was about to say, cha1n, you're playing a dangerous game right there. And again, the rockets, they do a decent amount of damage, but Effortless had the better stack. He's got more weapons, he's got a better positioning. We're only halfway through this map. It feels like we're in minute 9 already, but it's only been 5 of those. Effortless 2 frags in the lead, and bam!
My days, Flea. The instant reposition, knowing that there's no way cha1n has the foresight that, hey, he's going to rocket jump, and he's going to put himself in position to hit a rail. Like, you would have had to galaxy brain that read to make it.
cha1n, you've got a bunker down now. You cannot keep playing a super aggressive game against a player that has such a stack and weapon advantage. Out comes the double LG though. cha1n determined to make it work. Questionable play, luckily for him.
Yeah, risk
no
giving up
damage
an angle.
taken at all. Mega up in just a few seconds. cha1n, is he going to contest it? He's coming up from Banana, taking a bad rocket right there. Yeah.
I feel like we only half heard that BJ scream there. Did you hear that?
It got cut off very quickly. Effortless, mercilessly.
Finishes the
life.
Oh, cha1n ready. A nail gun is all you need.
Didn't even need the dual wield on the nails right there to do an insulting amount of damage. And right now, cha1n, he's got the heavy, he's got time to work with. He just can't give up too much stack right now, and that's exactly what he's doing. Keeping himself nice and topped up.
This really has just been pure ruthless aggression, but he's going in with a rocket.
Oh.
Very, very unfortunate to have fumbled that fight. He went in full speed ahead with the rockets, understanding, hey, he spawned. What have I got to fear? Turns out, just a machine gun, bro.
It's unfortunately pretty common on this map, because it's very difficult to place your rockets here, right? Because you've got that layer of water that can really throw off your perception of where exactly that rocket is going to land and explode and do damage. And I think that's part of the reason why cha1n, his rocket just kept on falling a little bit short. And right now, Effortless is just hitting rail after rail, just securing his lead for the time being.
No light to collect though, so with no armor, Effortless might be a little bit nervous. That missed rail does indeed give his position away at the time. Effortless has to play a very patient man's game now. Fair to assume cha1n can probably hear everything you're doing. He's not very far away from you. Now Effortless is just looking for those defensive rails. Hit those shots, and if they work, so be it. Keep him away. Totem to stop up again. But with that heavy, yeah, Effortless is looking to try and shut him down a little bit. This is the rail. As long as he has the lead, though, it doesn't matter too much. He knows cha1n's looking to pepper down some damage at the same time. He's going to run down near teleport now. Effortless, weak indeed, but cha1n misses the punishing rail, which could have got him a frag. Effortless still very railable at this health. Even after this bubble, he's still railable. And there's no totem health yet. Hasn't come back just in time.
I like this.
We heard that.
cha1n. Yeah, that was so close. I like how cha1n went for Mega instead of trying to chase, because he still has plenty of time, and he definitely should make sure this opponent doesn't take the resources away from him, because that's what cost him Blood Covenant, it feels like. So that's a good play, but now he does have to hit the shots, and it will be Effortless. I think you could only see his head, and that's exactly what he nailed.
I fear that might be the frag that broke the camel's back, to be honest with you. I just think cha1n, he's been trying to be so crazy aggressive this entire map, but he's not landing his shots. He's in the position to, but he's not landing it. And again, the downtime with the rail. Punished! Effortless gets another frag. And it really is escaping him. cha1n, he's had the game plan, but he's just not had the execution today. Looking for a rail, misses, and thankfully for cha1n, it did miss, otherwise that would have been a 13th frag. As we're now going into what could be the 1 minute warning. More rockets, and then some. cha1n dies again. Effortless, looking so good today. And for cha1n, poor guy, it's just all going wrong, isn't it, Flea?
It looked like it was gonna go the other way at the start of Awoken. cha1n was looking good, and even after he gave up some frags, he managed to close the gap again. But unfortunately, just Effortless proving too strong for him, and this definitely is almost guaranteed to be a 3-0 for Effortless. He's going to be happy with that because
he spent a lot of this map like running the cycle to keep himself stacked up, but mostly he's just listening out for cha1n. Like right now, he's like just listening out for cha1n, and he's just sitting there holding an angle with a rocket, pulls the trigger right before cha1n even comes around the corner. He's about to deny the heavy at this stage. A small victory for a great loss. That's not going to help him at all. 15-8 is the current score. Could be the final score at this moment. cha1n far too aggressive, unfortunately, as Effortless was just setting up shop, waiting for cha1n to go around a corner and just peppering crazy rockets down, getting that opening damage. And he was just one step ahead of cha1n this entire series. The win, 3-0. Effortless versus cha1n. One of Effortless's best weeks in the Quake Pro League he's ever had. And a massive injection of points to help him out.
Also, very good use of the totems, I feel like, from Effortless. Very often using them mid-fight, just throwing them down as soon as he saw his opponent approach and engage. And then he's got, of course, that extra little bit of health and that little barrier between him and his opponent as well. Still, though, I didn't really see any new totems like Effortless announced at the start, so maybe it was just all a juke.
I wouldn't put it past him, to be honest with you, because if you go into a map and say, by the way, I've got some new totems. Definitely watch out for them.
Yeah.
It's like if you're going to look right around the corner, maybe I'm going to look left. Oh, he's to the right. I died. Damn, that rapscallion, that naughty boy.
Effortless.
Naughty boy. But all in all, a great week for Effortless. But at the same time, not a very good week for cha1n. I just feel like it really feels like cha1n was not bringing his A game today.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking to say that. You know, where there are plenty of cha1n fans out there. We love cha1n, but he has not had a good day today.
Yeah, things just definitely didn't go his favor. Like you said, I feel a big part of that has to do with some undue aggression in some uncalled for situations. And now we're going to get a look at some of the highlights and the replays of this matchup. And Effortless, there we go, that opening rocket immediately tying things right back up. The rockets from Effortless, you've mentioned it before, but they have been so sweet today after Crumbs. Crumbs were also really good in the first series.
Just the rockets, it's the weapon usage in general. His weapon swapping's been fantastic. Only got caught doing it throughout this entire series a couple of times, maybe incorrectly. But on the flip side, when these fights were breaking out, Effortless was hitting some miracle shots, and cha1n was struggling to get max damage on a lot of basic situations. You know, rockets that from that range you'd normally expect it there. cha1n, I think, just underestimated the positioning for the rockets to come in. And by the time he got hit by that first one, it's way too late to escape. And he's just constantly trying to push his way in, constantly. And this was his opening to maybe start making a comeback, because he mounted up like 3 or 4 frags so quickly. And even here, that looked like signs, hey, look, cha1n's going to make a comeback. And then it all fell apart. You know, he got hit by that one rail and then once more tried to stand. That, for me, was the frag
beautiful.
of the map. I think that was the frag of the map, where he hit the opening rail, beautiful rocket jump to reposition himself. cha1n, as a running theme, I don't think was ready for it. That was an almost flawless display of nails. There were some moments of greatness. That's why it sucked so bad that it had to happen to cha1n today, because some of these frags were just so surgical. However, he gave up too many, and there's no other way to explain it.
I think we saw a few too many situations in which cha1n spawned or just didn't have enough to work with and still put himself in a vulnerable position, you know? Running towards his opponent, or where your opponent might be without the right tools to deal with that, and then when you go up against someone like Effortless.
But I was also looking at those replays, how many of those frags that Effortless bagged was he simply just staying put with a rocket launcher out, and he's just waiting. because he's obviously listening for cha1n to go around the corner or listening out for him, and cha1n consistently just falling for the trap.
Yeah.
And later on, it's more understandable because, hey, look, the guy's running out of time. He's got to make something happen. Halfway through the map, when those frags were going the way they did, I'm not so convinced it was as necessary. And the biggest heartbreaker of the series is that was not the first map that was happening. It was a consistent problem for cha1n pretty much all series round, where Effortless was just waiting for cha1n to just run into his hands.
Yeah.
You know, he's a mouse with a little bit of cheese, mousetrap there. He's just, I got to grab it. You know, it's there, it's mine.
Yeah, and I think we've actually started today with 2 serious upsets. No, I mean, first cha1n beating Razy. I don't think that's something that a lot of players are expecting.
Unpredictable day it has been.
Absolutely, and then the same for this matchup as well. Effortless vindicating himself after losing to cha1n and Quake and being ranked several places below him, and at this point actually taking the fight to him 3-0 as well. So, yeah, unexpected results.
Absolutely. We should have the map stats, actually, so we can kind of see what happened. I feel like the item usage, it looks pretty even.
Yeah.
Right? It really does look pretty even to me. And there's no question that the best weapon came from the rocket launcher. That was in massive part thanks to the dual wield that cha1n was able to bring on board, thanks to BJ. But lots of LG getting peppered out there. Those rockets would set up the damage, and the LG would just finish the job. And that is a hallmark of a trap being set, you know, where you have the position, you know they're going to come around the corner, you knock them up into a position they don't want to be in, use the LG once you force them into a position to get the max damage to finish it off.
And actually, very interesting, cha1n out-damaged Effortless by 700 points of damage, meaning that even though he was landing so many of the shots, he wasn't doing it at the right time or in the right situation, because Effortless every single time had something to back up, to stack himself back up with, and cha1n just wasn't able to make the right shots land at the right time. But you can definitely tell, and one of the best benchmarks for this is actually the small armors. When you looked at the previous map on Blood Covenant, you saw that the person out of control, cha1n, had like 25 small armors as opposed to Effortless only having around 11. But this map around, both of them are pretty close, 17 to 20, and that shows that no player really had a consistent long amount of control.
It just came down to those crucial frags, didn't it? It was really those traps being sprung where, you know, the most conventional frags that you see are player has control, player has a big stack, and they're able to set something up, and it's almost like quite calculated. You can see history unfold before it even happens, but part of that might even in turn be the nature of Awoken. I know Awoken is a very popular map for that kind of crazy, unpredictable play, but it feels like predictability was what Effortless was hoping on, and he got what he was looking for for the entire 10-minute period.
Yep, and well, that will conclude it for the matchup between Effortless and cha1n, right? 3-0, unexpected result. Effortless is going to be savoring this because the points, as we just said, they're worth quite as much as they were in the first stage, and well, many players are still building upon the points that they gathered back then, so this really is an important victory for Effortless.
It's the opportunity to reflect. And, you know, I think for better or worse, depending on how the series went for you, cha1n, I think, needs to kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit. This is, in some ways, a bit of a wake-up call week for him, where it's like, okay, so the crazy, crazy levels of aggression, almost to the point where I'm not really sure what was going on. It didn't necessarily, it didn't really look like cha1n. It didn't look like the same kind of player where when one map had gone the way it did, okay, well, let's go into the next map and be a little bit more careful, maybe a little bit slower. And he just continued to essentially make the same mistakes as every map went on. An opportunity for him to reflect on that, watch the replays if he wants to. If not, just understand that let's go into other weeks with a different approach. And if you're Effortless, you're going to be feeling like $1 million right now. We're going to go for a quick break and set up our next set of series. This is Stage 2, Week 2 of Quake Pro League. Don't go anywhere.